I jumped up, and at that point, he reached for me with his left hand, and with the right hand started stabbing the knife at me. And this voice in my head was saying, break it, break it. So I just reached with my left hand and just grabbed the top part of the knife and just twisted it sideways. And when I did, it broke off even with the handle. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe that the knife had broke. I took the blade and I threw it behind my son's bed thinking he would have to go get it. And he was just he hadn't realized that I broke it yet, and he was stabbing at me with the wooden part of the handle, and he had actually gotten cut. And he said, isn't that something? I brought the knife and I got cut. He jumped over the bed when he realized the blade was gone to get the blade, and when he did, I ran out of the bedroom. And I ran for the phone, and I grabbed it, and I got the first number dialed. I dialed 9, and he was back in and grabbed the phone from me and hung it up. He was trying to drive me back to the bedroom, and I wasn't gonna go. So when we got to the door jamb, I just locked one leg around the door, and I took my shoulder and I just thrust it into his sternum as hard as I could and knocked the air out of him. And I had him pinned to the wall. I started screaming for my son, and I was yelling, Nick, get up, get out of bed, come on, get out of the house. Thinking if I could just hold him. I'm sorry. He said, let me go and let me tie you up, or I'm gonna call the other guy in that's outside and he's gonna kill your son. So I knew I couldn't fight two men. It was a split-second decision that I had to let him tie me up. After my hands were tied, he told me to sit down on the bed. He sat down beside me. Then he started touching me. And of course, I tried to move away a little bit, and that irritated him. He had gone into the kitchen and gotten another knife, and he started cutting my clothes off. And he tied my shirt around my mouth, and I left my jaw out some, thinking I could leave it loose enough to get it off. And when he saw what I was doing, he pulled it tighter. At this point, he was really irritated because I wouldn't listen to anything he said. He told me to roll over and put my face into the pillow. He said, I'm gonna cut you loose before I leave, and when I do, you count to 100 before you get up. So I thought, wow, okay, he is gonna let me go. He crawled on my back, and he straddled me, and at first I thought he was gonna cut the ties on my hands, but instead he reached and he grabbed me by the hair and he pulled my head back and cut my throat. The first thing I thought was, who's gonna take care of my son? Is there enough life insurance? And they say your life flashes before your eyes, and it really does. I mean, you think about all the things you haven't done. Think about all the things you still want to do. After he had started cutting my throat, he tilted my head one way and then he tilted it the other and started cutting the other side. I was just praying, please let my son be okay. And it was at that point I started saying the Lord's Prayer. And I started praying, just let me go. At that point, I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to die. After he cut both sides of my neck, he put the knife in my throat and was basically trying to rip my larynx out. And at that point, the knife broke. And I was kind of looking down and I could see the knife in my throat. And he just pulled it out the other side, and he went to the kitchen and he got another knife, and he came back. And that's when he started stabbing me in my back. I was very lucky. He had tied my hands so tight that he had pulled my shoulder blades together, and they had actually made a shield over my vital organs. He continued to stab me probably about 45 times in my back, and then he took the knife and rammed it into my ear, and he turned the knife and cut the bottom part of my ear off. When he had put the knife in the front of my throat, he had caused both my lungs to collapse. I had what they call a sucking chest wound, so I was still able to breathe, but not very well. And my mouth was just filling up with blood, and I was afraid that I was going to choke to death on the blood, so I just started spitting that out into my shirt. He took the knife and he put it in the back of my neck and started pounding it with his fist. And when he did, it went all the way through the front and gave me a tracheotomy, so now I could breathe. But I was thinking, God, you know, am I going to be paralyzed? He was asking me, are you dead yet? And for whatever reason, I was in shock, I don't know, but I tried to answer him and I moaned. And when I did that, I realized instantly it was a mistake, because he started stabbing me again, and I knew he wasn't going to stop until I was dead.